Hey, and welcome to Dr. G Speaks. I am Dr. Kristen Guillory, and I am so very excited to help you experience a life of freedom, faith, and fun you may not even realize is possible. Listen, I know you feel held back, I know you feel stuck, and I know you are hiding. As a coach and the author of Look, Stop Hiding, How to Find Your Voice and Never Dim Your Light Again, you will get to listen to some amazing stories, receive some homework, that's the professor in me, and get some tools to help you live the life you deserve. It's time to quiet the noise and walk in the fullness of who God created you to be. It's time to stop hiding and start thriving. Together, we'll uncover your potential and ignite your journey to a fulfilling life, a life of freedom. What up, y'all? My birthday is May 24th, and I am so excited about it. Heading to Mexico with a good friend of mine to just enjoy, just celebrate, and strive to position myself and be open to coming or going into the year, my next year, the way that is in alignment with where God wants me to be. So I'm turning 45. Come on, 45. I told somebody, a few people over the last year or so, my age, and they were, wait, what? Okay, I thought you were younger than me and I'm 38, or your energy is not somebody of a 45-year-old. And I said, what does that mean? You don't have the energy of somebody in your 40s. I said, well, I must because I am in my 40s, okay? My nephews tell me, you do not act like you're in your 40s. You have too much energy. I said, what? They said, no, we know people in their 40s and they don't have that kind of energy. I said, excuse me, who do you know? They said, mom and dad's friends. I said, why don't they have the energy? Because they're paying bills and they're raising kids. I said, first of all, I pay bills too, and I support you all as my nephews. Hilarious. And so I'm very grateful to see 45. 45, when I was younger, seemed like so far away. And I can vividly remember 35 and 32, and just time goes by. Like time really, really goes by, and it makes me reflect. It makes me reflect on things that I have probably given too much attention to that really would not matter and does not matter today. I remember hearing somebody say, that thing that's bothering you, is it going to bother you in 1 year? If not, let that go. Now, I believe in the and. I believe in I am bothered right now, and I am going to not give this the weight and attention that would be too heavy because it's not going to matter in a year. And as I am entering a new year, I desire to enter this year ready and available to receive. I desire to enter this year in an entirely different way. I desire to release things that literally no longer serve me. And it could be things or thoughts or ways I did business or opportunities. And it's interesting. I was in quiet time, in prayer time last week, and I came across a reel about Lot's wife in the word in Genesis 19 about Lot's wife. And God encouraged her not to look back. Like, do not look back. Was warned by angels to flee, and God prepared them and told, do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Don't look back. Lot's wife disobeyed. She looked behind him, looked back, and became a pillar of salt. And I reflected on that, or that reel came across at the perfect time because, in truth, I have been looking back at things probably a little too much. And the looking back was me attaching myself to the past that was not supposed to be a part of my future. The looking backwards symbolizes a longing for the past, attachment to potentially what God might be destroying, resistance to God's deliverance. And I've been guilty of like looking back at pictures of me when I was smaller. And the irony, all those years, I looked back at pictures of myself. Here's the interesting thing. I actually stopped looking back at pictures of me when I was smaller or look at the weight and all that because a conversation for another time. I made weight an idol off and on for 30 years. An idol. I made weight an idol. I made a size an idol, or it was never about weight or a size because if I would have reached my ideal weight, it still would not have been enough. What I have recently realized is because I'm not looking back at the quote unquote old me, numbers wise, I'm probably around the same weight I was when I quote unquote was my smallest. Maybe if I'm going to look at numbers, I might be 7 pounds heavier than that. And what's interesting is if I would have had the mindset of looking back, I would not have appreciated the journey I am currently on. I have looked back at ways I've done work. For example, in the beginning of my business, I marketed a certain way. I conducted my business a certain way. And there have been times that I have tried to implement the same strategy for work I'm doing today. And God is like, why are you trying to implement the strategy that you did when you first started your business at year 10? There's a different strategy because you're in a different place. You are a different person. You're working in a different arena with different people. So why would you try to implement the same thing? I have had to change the way that I rest. Instead of looking back at the way I used to rest, and that is what worked, I need a new type of rest for who I am and where I'm going today. There have been times I have been guilty of looking back at the way someone did something and hoping they would do that again or hoping they would go back to being that person. And that's not fair because that doesn't allow the opportunity to embrace who they are or are becoming, or the opportunity to release them and say, okay, that is what they did, or that is where we were. And God, you are not calling us to be in that position. You're not calling me to be the same in that place. So, God, you are releasing me. And releasing may mean the business partnership, the friendship, the romantic relationship may either need to be refined or ended, or you do some new things. But looking back, after I left my professor position in 2014, I kept looking back. I kept looking back. I kept looking back. I kept holding on to that position when the Lord said, I need you to release. I need you to release that so you can have both hands ready and available for what I have for you. But you keep looking back. Oh my gosh, y'all, I looked back. I thought I made a mistake. I looked at what was. I looked at what I was a popular professor. I was a known professor. They were giving me all these things. All these things are great. Look at what could have been. I kept looking back. I kept looking at what was, and I wasn't embracing where God was taking me. I wasn't embracing the possibility of what was next because I was embracing the comfort because I was scared of what if I let go? What happens? There has never been one time when I was disobedient and things turned out worse. Not one time in my entire life. Have there been times when it was worse when I did not trust and I was not obedient? Absolutely. So as I go into my new year, into 45, I want to release and stop looking back. Now, doesn't mean don't reflect from time to time on the past or look back on the past or do that. It doesn't mean that, but don't look back where it is going to turn into pain. You're not needing to look backwards. You're going to sit in so much regret as if you're driving a car. Yes, we need the rear view mirror. The rear view mirror is there for a reason, but you're not driving the car looking at the rearview mirror the entire time. You're looking forward. What would it look like if you lived life, if you drove your car looking in the rearview mirror? And in truth, in some areas of my life, I looked in that rearview mirror. I've done that in the case of the job that I mentioned that I left. I've done that in the case unfortunately, in friendships I've been in where I looked back and I'm like, man, they used to do this. They used to be like that. They used to do this, not factoring in one, maybe it's time to redefine, as I said, maybe it's a new season, and unintentionally selfish, not recognizing that this person is in a place that they've never been, pain that they've never had. So they may not be able to do what they once did, extend grace. I've had people do that to me and put things on me, and I'm like, yeah, that's not who I am. I'm going through this, or I'm a different Kristen. I'm not that Kristen from 10 years ago. So if you're only looking at me through the lens of the past, for example, I have a nickname, a family nickname that I was actually just fine with people calling me this nickname when I was in college, even after college, but I am in a different place. I'm, of course, okay with my nephews calling me that nickname, my mom and dad, my sister, my brother, friends, but I don't want anybody else calling me that. I am not that person. That is not a name that is me. I remember there was a guy years and years and years ago that I was dating, and his nickname was Baby, and I'll give him a name, Michael. I'll call him Michael. And his family called him Baby Michael. Hey, Baby Michael. Hey, Baby Michael. And this was a grown man. And I remember thinking, you do have the right to say that's not my name or don't call me that. So that's holding on to the past. That's holding on to the past. I wonder what are some things that you have been looking back to, and God says, stop looking back. Stop looking back. Are you someone and you live and fixate your worth on something you did years and years ago? You ran the winning touchdown in that game in high school. You launched this amazing thing when you were 20 and now you're 50. You broke this record 30 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Doesn't mean those things are not amazing, but those things don't define you. I have seen it. I have been connected to amazing people who believe their worth is in doing this thing. And I started this when I was 24, and I started this. And yet we can say that, but your story did not stop there. That is not the only part of your worth. I've had conversations with folks who, won this game, or I did this when I was in high school. That's amazing. And you are valuable today. Looking so much and leaning so much in the past unintentionally prevents us from the goodness of today. Oh man, when I had that job in the beginning, I was able to do this and this and this, but I can't anymore. You're not honoring what you can do. Maybe you were able to run a literal or figurative 9-minute mile, 8-minute mile, but today, because of life and other things happening, you're running a 15-minute mile. And instead of honoring that 15-minute mile, you keep looking back. Oh, I used to be able to do this. I used to be able to do that. And you're missing all the things that you survived and went through and you were graced through to be at the place where you are to do a 15-minute mile. So when you look back, do you get stuck? When you look back, is it just to reflect and then you keep the party going? Or do you look back and think that that was it? I've reached my pinnacle. That is all that I can do. That is it. And I hope that you know, if this is you, I hope that you know that while that is a part of your story and an amazing part of your story, you are amazing, you are worthy, and that there is more. Your affirmation for the week: you are amazing, you are worthy. Thank you so much for listening to the Dr. G Speaks podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and family. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Deuces.